Don't go to Mom's birthday. Dad sent a frigid text. Nobody wants you here. Anyway. You are a complete failure. I merely smiled and replied back. So money is more important than your child. I cancelled everything, even the restaurant deposit that you can't get back. In their group chat, they're all laughing, but they have no idea what's about to happen. I never thought I'd write something like this on Reddit, but I really need to get it off my chest, and this seems like the best place to do it. Just a heads up, this is going to be a long one. Names have been changed for obvious reasons. So, I'm 38 years old, a man, and married to Marissa, 37 years old, a woman. We've been together since our sophomore year of college when we met in a psych class. And we have 2 great kids, Ellie, 5, and Jake, 9. Our 3-bedroom ranch house just outside of Indianapolis needs some maintenance, but it has terrific bones. I own a construction and remodeling business that focuses on high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels. It's not spectacular, but I make approximately $85,000 a year, which isn't bad for a guy who started with just a beat-up F-150 and a collection of used tools. A little bit about my past. It appears like I grew up in the idyllic suburban family, but it was really bad for me. My dad is a real estate developer who made a lot of money in the 1990s by flipping commercial properties. He never lets anyone forget it. My older sister Lisa is a corporate lawyer who is married to a plastic surgeon who does mommy makeovers for rich people. My younger sister Jenna sells drugs, drives a BMW for her job, and lives in an apartment downtown that my parents helped her buy. Our house was like a museum when we were kids. Furniture that cost a lot but you couldn't sit on. A formal dining room that was only used twice a year. And my mom always redecorating to keep up with what her country club friends were doing. I was always the odd one out since I opted to work with my hands instead of going after a fancy degree or a job at a big company. I went to college and received a business degree, but I found out I loved creating things when I worked on a construction site over the summer. My parents never forgave me for going into a blue-collar job. When my family got together, they'd introduce my sisters by their full names and jobs, but when it was my turn, they'd just point at me and say, "That's Bruce. He's in construction." It was like they thought I was going through a phase at 38. Everything fell apart on a Tuesday morning in February. Normal day, having just taken the kids to school. We were late because Jake forgot his science project and we had to go back for it. Before going to work on a kitchen remodel for a doctor's family, I stopped at a coffee shop I like in the area. I was in line, looking at my phone to check on supply orders, when it buzzed to let me know. On my screen, there was a family group chat called Mom's Birthday. To give you some background, my mom's birthday is a big affair in our family. She wants a big party all weekend long, expensive gifts, and everything else. My sister Lisa brought her to a spa resort in Arizona last year that cost more than my first car. Since I can't afford to compete, I usually attempt to do something kind. I fixed an old jewelry box for her last year, as she had said she wanted it done. She said thank you. After that, it went into a closet somewhere. Anyway, I start the conversation and expect the usual mess of people talking about cake flavors or how to match their clothes. Yes, they do that. But instead, I get this note from my dad. Don't go to Mom's birthday celebration. Everyone in the family doesn't want you there. You're a loser. I just looked at it. There were no emojis or softening words. Just this bomb dropped in the middle of our family talk. I was so astonished that the barista had to say my name twice. And you know what? After the first hit in the gut, I smiled. Not because it was humorous, but because the mask finally came off. They had been gazing down on me for years. The stress of family gatherings when they talked about their BMWs and vacation homes while looking at me with pity. When I tried to explain how hard it is to match 100-year-old woodwork in a historic refurbishment, many rolled their eyes like I was a plumber instead of a trained artisan. The Christmas when my dad gave my sisters extra money for their hard work and gave me a $100 gift card to Home Depot. And the worst part was how they handled Marissa, who is an elementary school teacher, like she was the help. They always asked her to watch the other kids or work in the kitchen while my sisters sat around. But this communication was the whole truth, without any filters. I moved up. Nothing that leads to it. Just some notes about how to decorate for the party. Then, all of a sudden, you're a loser. I merely texted back, so you chose money over your son. Then I cancelled the reservation I had made 3 weeks before. This upscale Italian restaurant where a plate of food costs $90. My mom constantly talked about it, but she said it was too elite to get a table. She didn't realize that last year I made a bespoke wine cellar for the owner and spent 2 months working on it on the weekends to get it just right. He was so impressed with it that he said I may have the private room whenever I wanted. I had planned it for $2,500, with a special menu with all of my mom's favorite foods, and even hired a jazz trio to perform her favorite tunes. No one knew about it. I wanted to surprise them and show them that I was still family, even though I didn't own a European car or go on vacation in the Hamptons. Then the flood came. My cousin Brant, an investment banker and utter jerk who once asked me in front of everyone at Thanksgiving if I needed a loan, answered with laughing emojis. My sister Lisa wrote, "You really are delusional, still living in your little construction fantasy while the rest of us built real careers. Maybe if you'd applied yourself in school like Dad wanted instead of playing with hammers, you wouldn't be embarrassing us all." Jenna, who I thought might have my back since I've helped her move 3 times and fixed up her condo for free. Just like the message and stayed quiet. Then my uncle sent a meme with my face photoshopped onto a clown with the caption, "When you think manual labor makes you successful." They were all responding within seconds of each other like they've been waiting for this moment. The group chat exploded with everyone piling on. Aunt Carol asking if I could at least dress properly if I did show up. My other cousin suggesting I could park cars or something useful at the party, and my mom's sister saying maybe it was for the best since Marissa clearly doesn't own anything appropriate for the venue. Anyway, that's when I knew I was done. Really, done. After that group chat, I didn't say another word to any of them. Not on the chat, not to my dad, nobody. I didn't block them or delete the thread, though. I wanted them to see me online, active, living my life. I wanted them to wonder. I finished my coffee, went to my job site, and worked like nothing happened. The client's wife brought me lunch. She did that sometimes because I was rebuilding her dream kitchen, and actually listened to what she wanted instead of telling her what she should want. Like their last contractor. Normal day, I came home, played catch with Jake, helped Ellie with her reading, ate dinner with my family. When the kids were in bed, I told Marissa everything. Not just about the message, but all the years leading up to it. How they'd make snide comments about her teacher's salary while asking her to watch their kids for free. How my mom would accidentally exclude us from family photos because we weren't dressed upscale enough or position us at the back. How at my nephew's birthday, my sister asked Marissa if she could help the catering staff set up, not realizing she was basically asking my wife to be unpaid labor. I told her about the time my dad gave my oldest sister a $25,000 gift for a down payment on her house, but told me asking for a $5,000 loan for business equipment was enabling my poor choices. About how my mom had a habit of introducing Marissa as Bruce's wife, "She's a teacher," in this tone that made it sound like she was saying, "She has headlights." Marissa listened without interrupting. And when I finished, she didn't say, "I told you so." Even though she could have. She'd been telling me for years that my family treated us like second-class citizens. She just nodded and asked, "What do you want to do?" That moment right there, that's when I realized what I had. Most of my family would never have someone who had their back no matter what. They were all too busy climbing over each other to get to the top, throwing each other under the bus to impress my dad. My older sister literally scheduled her wedding during my younger sister's college graduation to steal the spotlight. They were that kind of family. I told Marissa I didn't just want revenge. I wanted to show them that money isn't everything. That they'd thrown away the only person who ever genuinely cared about them rather than what they could provide. "So, what's the plan?" she asked. And that's when it started to take shape. First, I contacted my buddy Mason, who runs a digital marketing agency. We played football together in high school, and I'd renovated his basement into a killer home office the previous year at cost because he was between jobs. I asked him to help me build a proper website for my renovation business. Not just a landing page with my phone number, but a full portfolio showing the high-end work I'd been quietly doing for years. See, what my family never bothered to find out was that I'd developed a reputation among architects for detail work that nobody else could match. Those hammer and nail skills they mocked, they'd led to me getting referrals for some of the most expensive homes in the area. I just never bragged about it like they would have. Mason built me a website showcasing before-after photos of my best projects, testimonials from clients, including several whose names even my status-obsessed family would recognize, and a proper booking system. He also set up targeted social media that would reach the exact high-end clients I wanted. Within 2 weeks, I had customers with 7-figure homes messaging me from Instagram. My business tripled from $85,000 to on track for nearly $250,000 that year. Then I called my cousin Ryan. Not one from the group chat. He'd left the family years ago after his dad, my uncle, borrowed $150,000 from Ryan's college fund to invest in a sure-thing casino development that went bust. We'd kept in touch on the down-low grabbing lunch when he was in town. He lives out in Asheville, North Carolina, owns a bunch of rental properties, and had always said there was room for me if I ever wanted to move. He'd even offered me a deal on one of his houses a while back. I never took him up on it until now. I told him I was thinking of moving. Fresh start. He didn't hesitate. Said one of his tenants was leaving in 3 months and the place was mine if I wanted it. 4 bedrooms on the edge of the mountains. Mortgage would be less than our current place. Space for the kids, a workshop for my tools, and most importantly, peace. Meanwhile, I was playing nice on social media, posting pictures of me and Marissa at charity events in the wealthy parts of town where I had clients. Coaching Jake's little league team where he was actually getting pretty good. Ellie's dance recital. She got a solo even though she was youngest in her class. Family dinners, always smiling, always together, never once mentioning the drama behind the scenes. I also started posting before-after shots of my latest projects. All multi-million-dollar homes with owners who trusted me with their luxury kitchens and bathrooms. A famous former NFL player's media room. A tech CEO's custom library with hidden passages and built-in gadgets. A complete restoration of a historic mansion's original woodwork that had been featured in a design magazine. And my family was watching. I know they were because one day Lisa sent me a private message. Where did you get the money to attend the children's hospital? Gala, those tickets are $500 each. Dad thinks you might be in some kind of financial trouble and making bad decisions. Translation. They can't stand that I might actually be doing well without their help. I left it on red. Then Mom texted, not in the group chat, but directly. Bruce, I see your business is doing well. Maybe we should talk. Your father has some connections that might help you expand. Some of our friends have been asking about your work, which is a bit awkward since we don't know what to tell them. Translation. Now that other rich people are noticing me, they want to pretend they've been supportive all along. It was tempting to tell them to go themselves, but I waited. I needed more time. This wasn't about giving them a piece of my mind. It was about showing them exactly what they'd thrown away. Mom's birthday came and went. I didn't show up, obviously, but I heard about it after. Jenna got in touch a week later and said the energy was weird, that people kept bringing me up, that Dad was quieter than usual. Apparently, Dad had been telling everyone I'd have a meltdown and cause a scene. So, when I didn't show at all, he looked like a __. She also mentioned that the party was at some mediocre steakhouse because Dad claimed the reservation he made at somewhere special fell through. When I heard that, I nearly spit out my coffee. The $2,500 deposit I lost on that Italian place was worth every penny. Just to imagine their faces when they ended up at Outback or whatever. Mom kept checking her phone all night. Jenna said she barely touched her food. Good. Let that sink in. 2 weeks after Mom's birthday, the silence finally broke. I hadn't texted anyone, but I hadn't blocked them either. I wanted them to watch. Then my dad texted, "Your mother's been crying. You got your point across. That's enough. People are inquiring about you because the Petersons charity auction is next week. It's not cool. No apology, no ownership, just concern about their social image." That line, "You've made your point," was the dumbest thing I'd ever read. He thought this was about proving something. He still didn't get it. None of them did. So, I didn't reply, not even a dot. 3 days later, Jenna texted asking to meet. Just her, no pressure. I waited a few hours, then agreed. Coffee, neutral ground. We met at this little cafe on the south side where none of our family ever went because it wasn't exclusive enough and didn't serve avocado toast or whatever. I got there early, sat by the window. She came in 10 minutes late, no makeup, hair, and a messy bun, looking nothing like her usual polished self. She looked tired, but not physically tired. Tired in a way I recognized. First words out of her mouth. "You were right, Bruce." I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. She told me about the birthday, how it hadn't been fun at all. Mom spent the night fake happy, clinking glasses, and laughing too loud. Dad paced around checking his phone, obviously expecting me to show up with some grand apology. Lisa spent the whole night humble bragging about her husband's new partnership at his surgical practice worth mid-7 figures. She even had the balls to tell people I couldn't attend because I was having financial difficulties and they were trying to respect my privacy. This from the woman who once asked me to retile her bathroom for free as a family favor while wearing a watch that cost more than my truck. Jenna said the worst part was when Mom opened her gifts. Designer handbags, jewelry, spa vouchers, and then she got to the small box from our Aunt May, who's the only decent one besides Ryan. It was a handmade photo frame with a picture of Mom and all 3 of us kids from when we were young. Mom burst into tears and had to leave the table. Dad followed her out and came back alone 20 minutes later, claiming she had a migraine. She kept asking about the Italian restaurant. Jenna said like she somehow knew there was supposed to be a reservation there. Dad kept saying he didn't know what she was talking about, but she wouldn't let it go. Then Jenna said something that shocked me. After I left the chat, people started talking. Really talking. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years asked what happened. Why everyone was laughing at me 1 minute and acting like I disappeared the next. Brant messaged Jenna admitting the clown meme was shitty. Said he was just following the group vibe like a sheep. But at least he owned up to it. Even Uncle Ron, the only one in the family who works with his hands as a hobby, remembered when I fixed his garage door during a storm without asking for anything. He told Jenna nobody else in the family would have done that. They'd have called a service and sent him the bill. Remember when Lisa's basement flooded last year and you showed up at midnight with pumps and stayed until 4 a.m. getting the water out? Jenna asked. She told people at the party that some guy she hired did it. She didn't even admit it was you. Then she told me something I'll never forget. Mom said you were the one who always needed help. But now that you're gone, everyone realizes you were the one who always gave help. You're the only one who ever actually shows up when someone needs something. Not just when there's something to gain. That hit me hard. Not because I needed recognition, but because I hadn't realized how much I was giving to people who never gave back. Jenna went quiet after that. She didn't ask me to come back or defend anyone. She just looked at me and said, "They only loved you when you were useful to them. Dad has been calling all of your past clients to find out who you're working for now. And Mom has been showing people your Instagram postings of the expensive properties you've fixed up. Like she's suddenly proud. It's gross. What did Dad say at supper last week?" He added, "Bruce is finally learning how to make connections with the right people. It took him long enough to listen to me. Like your success is somehow because of his advice, not in spite of it." That's when it all made sense. There was no problem with me. I was never the issue. When the system started to break down, it was easy for people to blame me. They made their own family based on money, looks, and prestige. The moment I broke free from that mold and started doing things my way, they couldn't take it. I felt weird when I left that eatery. Not mad, not vindicated, just obvious. Like the fog had finally cleared. I didn't go home mad after talking to Jenna. I didn't phone anyone to complain or write a long note that I would never send. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, looking at the grey sky, and I felt better than I had in years. There wouldn't be a big fight or argument. That wasn't what I wanted. What was coming wasn't a moment. It was emotion. Slow, careful, and clear. I was the first person to work for the company. The new branding that Mason worked with has already increased the number of clients I had. Now, I put everything on the line. Spent $20,000 on a targeted ad campaign that only ran in the richest communities. Recruited a part-time administrator to take care of bookings and billing, and began documenting projects with professional photos and drone footage. I even paid a filmmaker to make a short film on a $1.2 million kitchen remodeling I completed for a CEO in my area. The video went widespread in our neighborhood, and it was shared by the same people my parents wanted to impress. I started getting calls from their pals, folks whose homes I'd never gone to even though we grew up in the same circles. A close friend of my mother's hired me to rebuild her master bathroom and couldn't stop raving about how Marion never said how good you are. I never talked about my family, but it was all there. The success, the growth, the respect, and people noticed. Cousins who hadn't replied to my texts in years suddenly started following the business account. Lisa liked my posts again. The ones where you could see wealthy residences in the background were always the best. Dad even called the company line once, but when my new assistant answered, he hung up. I didn't pay attention to any of it. Instead, I put up a strange picture that looked normal unless you were looking attentively. A stack of moving boxes with the words "New Chapter" loading. No location. No explanation. Just enough. Jenna texted the next morning. "Wait, are you moving? Mom is stressing out." I didn't say anything. They didn't know that I had been making power maneuvers behind the scenes. Do you remember the client whose kitchen I fixed up? He was so amazed that he gave me a partnership and money to help my business grow into high-end home automation integration. We're talking about complete house systems for homes for millions of dollars. A $500,000 investment for 25% of the new division. I took it. On a Thursday, I signed the papers. Only told Marissa. David, the investor, also knew people in Asheville. It turns out that it's becoming a popular place for rich people who work from home and want custom smart homes in beautiful places. The plan was great. Grow the business there, start a new life away from the bad family relationships, and really enjoy watching my kids grow up without being judged all the time. In the meantime, Marissa and I spent our evenings sorting, selling, and packing. We gave away half of our furniture and sold the rest on the internet. We let Jake and Ellie sketch on the boxes while they packed their toys. Their delight made everything easier. Adults and kids don't grieve the same way. They don't see what's behind them. They only see what's ahead. Marissa would ask me, "Are you scared?" And I would always answer, "I've never been more sure of anything." The Asheville house would be ready in 6 weeks. Ryan sent me pictures. There is fresh paint, polished floors, a backyard with a maple tree big enough for a tire swing, and a workshop that is 3 times the size of my current garage. It was everything I never knew I wanted. There was no one around to tell me who to be, and it was quiet, green, and wide open. I opened the family group chat one last time a week before the transfer. Messages were back to normal. Pictures of Lisa's husband's new Porsche. Mom wants to go to the Hamptons for the summer. Links to restaurants with $200 tasting menus. It was like I didn't exist because no one had said my name in weeks. I didn't put anything up. I just quit the chat without saying anything. That was the start of the true avalanche. Jenna called first, but it went straight to voicemail. After that, the texts started rolling in. "What's going on? Lisa? Mom told me you're selling your house. We heard you're relocating. Mom, before you go, may we talk? Your dad knows several people in the commercial renovation business who he thinks might be able to help you. It's always about money and relationships. It was never about me as a person." I didn't say anything. I let it sit. Dad sent another text. "You're being too dramatic. That's enough. I heard that you and James Miller are now working together. Why didn't you talk to me first? I could have gotten you a better bargain. 25% is a lot of money. You're missing out on money because you won't listen to what others say." How in the world did he find out about the partnership? I hadn't told anyone but Marissa. That's when I knew they were snooping about in my life, presumably calling mutual friends to find out how I was suddenly doing well without their support. Still no apology, and they still talk to me like I owed them something. It was like all the years I spent trying to get them to love me didn't matter when I stopped. But they weren't the only ones who saw. There was something going on behind the scenes. My aunt, who I hadn't talked to in years, sent me a note thanking me for helping her neighbor fix his roof 2 summers ago after a tree fell on it during a storm. I don't remember performing it very well. You always show up when people need you, not just when there's something in it for you, she said at the conclusion. Brant wrote another message, this one longer. He said the meme was cruel. He said he got caught up in the group spirit and didn't know how messed up it was until later. Said his marriage was coming apart because his wife was leaving him for someone who really cares about her as a person, not simply as a status symbol. He said he admired what I was doing with my life and wanted he could do the same. After that, my sister Lisa's husband sent me the strangest note. We had never been close. When I came over to fix stuff around their house, he always acted like I was the help. But he sent me a long text saying that he had never seen somebody stand up to my dad before. How he felt like he was going to die under the pressure of his family's expectations, and how he sometimes wished he had taken a different path. It was strange coming from a guy who seemed to have all the qualities that my family cherished. I read these texts again and then saved them all. I didn't need any more apologies. I needed some space. My parents called me a lot the night before the move. I sent them all to voicemail. Dad's message was, as expected, all about him. Bruce, this is crazy. You can't just move to a different part of the country without talking to your family about it. How does your mother feel? What about the things you have to do here? Who will fix the house when something goes wrong? This is absolutely selfish. The message from my mom was worse. Crying and trying to get what you want. Please call me back, Bruce. I don't get what's going on. We've always been there for you, even when you selected that job. We only want what's best for you. Please don't do this to me. I'm your mom. The nerve was amazing. They still thought of themselves as the victims. The transfer was planned for a Friday. We rented a truck, loaded it ourselves with help from a few close friends, and didn't tell the family. There were no goodbyes or forwarding addresses. They just left. But I did leave one last clue. I made my business official in North Carolina 3 days before the relocation. I filed all the paperwork in public with my new address clearly written on it. Then I added a picture of me standing in front of the Blue Ridge Mountains to the business website, along with information about our new location, which now serves Asheville and the surrounding areas. I knew they would see it. They were too curious not to peek. Then, just before I left the driveway, I put up one last picture on my personal account. The sun shone on the floor in our empty living room. Caption: to grow, you sometimes have to leave poisonous individuals behind. Family isn't about money or blood. It's about who really cares when it matters. After that, I turned off my phone. They didn't know I wasn't jogging. I was finally going the right way. We left the house around 8 a.m. cloudy. That's cool. The weather is great for leaving everything behind. I drove the rented truck behind Marissa and the kids in the SUV. Put the windows down and hang one arm out. No music. I didn't require a music track. The only sound was the hum of tires on tarmac and the quiet between towns. It took about 8 hours to drive to Asheville, but it felt like minutes. No second-guessing or what-if thoughts, just this strange peace that got deeper the farther we got from Indiana. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders that I didn't even know was there. We stopped at a diner on the side of the road halfway there. Jake wanted to know if Grandma and Grandpa will come see us in our new home. I said maybe eventually, but not right now. Ellie wanted to know whether that made me sad. I had to think about it before I could provide an honest answer. No, do. There are occasions when someone loves you yet isn't good for you. That's okay. Ryan came to the new residence with an extra set of keys and 2 pizzas. In person, the place was even amazing. A big wraparound porch, real trees that weren't too close together in the suburbs, and lots of room inside, room to breathe, and room to develop without shadows. The youngsters ran around the house demanding spots and yelling that Ellie's walls had to be purple like the flowers outside. Marissa grinned and leaned against the counter. She didn't have to say anything. I knew she felt the same way. I turned my phone back on that night after the kids fell asleep on sleeping bags and half-built bunk beds. A lot of messages came in. I slowly scrolled through them, like when I read a novel and knew how it would finish. Please don't lock me out, Mom. This isn't how families solve problems. We're worried about how stable your finances are. Your dad says that this business idea is a bad one. Lisa, you're breaking up this family. For what? A message. Dad thinks this arrangement won't work without his connections. He just wants to keep you safe. Even Jenna had lost it. You could have said goodbye. Bruce, we're your family. This isn't you. Mom found the reservation for her birthday dinner. She's heartbroken. But the one that really stuck out was from Dad. You're acting like a kid. Running away won't help. Don't come to me for support when this breaks apart. Your mom can't be consoled, and it's your fault. I thought my son would be more loyal because I raised him. I really did laugh. That was the best he could do. Still trying to put me down. Still thinking I'd fail without him. Still making it about being loyal to him while not being loyal to me. I didn't answer. Didn't get angry, explain, or fight. I removed every message, the thread, and their numbers one by one. Finally, quietly, and cleanly. There was no big goodbye or angry speech. They just left. For the next week, we got used to things. I changed the business over time. Ryan's connections and my rising online reputation have already brought in new clients, new licenses, and new positions. I put up a showroom in the city center for the home automation part of the business, with demo stations so that potential clients could see what we could achieve. Marissa got a job at a private school that paid her what she was worth, and she developed a small garden in the back. Within a few days, the youngsters on our street became buddies. We met our neighbors, who invited us to cookouts in the neighborhood and didn't care what we dressed or what kind of car we drove. It wasn't magic right away, but it was ours. No one here cared about my last name or who my parents were. People only knew me as Bruce, the guy who built cool stuff and played catch with his son in the backyard. Then something unusual began to happen. Messages from friends back home. Hey, your mom was crying at the country club lunch because you cut off the whole family. What happened? This long thing on forgiveness and family loyalty was shared by your sister. Are you all right, man? Your dad is telling everyone that you had a breakdown because your business failed. He says he will help anyone who knows where you are. It's strange. That was the story they told. That I had lost it. That I needed help. That I had failed because they couldn't face the facts. That I had shattered something they thought I would always be too devoted to leave. But I hadn't lost anything. I had finally found serenity. And nothing they said or did, no rumor they circulated, could change that. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't doing things because of them. I was just living. Everything changed in Asheville after 1 year. It wasn't only the start of something new. It was like someone had gently given me my life back. The company grew quickly. I never thought I would have clients through the home automation relationship. Pro sportsmen and tech executives are buying mountain retreats, while families with old money are fixing up properties that are over 100 years old. That first year, we made $1.2 million in sales, and the next year, we expected to make $2 million. I employed 15 workers, all of whom were competent artisans who were proud of their job. Marissa was doing great at her new school. People acknowledged her teaching talents instead of treating her like she had chosen a backup career. Jake made the travel baseball team and was doing great. And Ellie got into a dance program that is very hard to get into. We bought a second home, a modest cabin on a lake where we could go on weekends. When I woke up, there was no weight on my chest for the first time ever. No need to explain myself. There was no quiet scoreboard where I was always losing because I selected a different path. I didn't think about my relatives in Indiana very much. They really did feel like they belonged to a previous life. Sometimes, I'd get texts from friends who knew both of us. Someone heard my dad telling folks that I got lucky with a business deal or that my mom had been asking about the costs of homes in Asheville. I didn't pay any attention to it. People like that don't change. They just adjust their plans. Then the bomb dropped, something I never saw coming. Lisa left me a voicemail on a Thursday morning in October. Her voice sounded tight and controlled, but there was a hint of panic in it. Dad's real estate business had gone under. The market changed. At the same time, a number of big investments went bad. And the worst part was that there was an investigation into some strange accounting practices. Dad had been cutting corners for years, lying about properties, and playing fast and loose with investors' money. They had to sell everything, including the house, the vacation home, and the automobiles. Mom's country club membership is no longer valid. It seems like Lisa's husband had been having a hard time too. He lost his job as a partner because of a malpractice lawsuit, and they were temporarily cutting back on staff. And this was the best part. Mom and Dad were going to Asheville to live in a smaller house and be closer to family. I laughed so hard that I almost crashed my truck. The nerve. I didn't call back. I listened to the message twice, bookmarked it for later, and didn't even tell Marissa about it. 2 weeks later, Dad sent another message. His voice sounded tired and aged. They lived in a condo on the edge of Asheville. Not the good part. The medical fees from his emergency gallbladder surgery had used up all of their savings. Mom was trying to find a job, but it was hard because she was older. He wanted to know if I could find it in my heart to aid them. Maybe my mom could work at my office and he could work as a contractor for me. The guy who had branded me a loser and said construction wasn't a legitimate job was now approaching me for a job in construction. I also preserved that message. Did not give it back. Then Mom texted me. Please, Bruce. We're related. We have nothing left. Your dad is too proud to ask for help, but I'm not. We need aid. Lisa can't do anything for us. They owe more on their mortgage than their house is worth. Jenna lost her job. You are our last chance. That night, once the kids were in bed, I presented it to Marissa. She read it twice and then glanced at me. What are you going to do? I smiled. Nothing. I saw them 2 days later at a meeting with a customer downtown. They were leaving a cheap cafe, the kind with lunch specials for $7.99. My mom looked older and thinner than I remembered. Her fancy outfits had been replaced by plain ones. Now my father walked with a small stoop, and his arrogance had gone down. They didn't notice me. I saw them get into a used Hyundai from across the street. A long way from Dad's typical Mercedes. For a second, just a second, I felt something. Nor guilt, nor really pity, but an understanding of how far they'd fallen. I got a call from a number I didn't know that weekend. Jenna was the one. She was in town for a short time to stay with her mom and dad. Can we talk? I said I would meet her at a coffee shop. She looked tired when she got there. It's not good, Bruce. Very terrible. The SEC inquiry discovered proof that Dad had been lying about money for years. Because of his age, he won't go to jail, but the fines got everything. They get by on Social Security and what little money Mom makes working at the mall. I drank my coffee and they need aid. Your help. Lisa's husband lost his malpractice case, and she has a lot of work to do with the kids. I lost my job and I'm having a hard time making ends meet. You're the only one who's doing well. I stared at her for a long time. Jenna, tell me something. When Dad texted me saying I was a loser and shouldn't come to Mom's birthday, and you all laughed and sent memes, where was the family loyalty? She was polite enough to look ashamed. We were mistaken. That's not right. But Bruce, they're old. They don't have anything. I leaned in. What did I learn this last year? That I've always been the one to help out in an emergency, fix things, and give emotional support, but never the one who made it big. They never deserved my respect until I left and developed something they couldn't take credit for. So, you're going to leave them with nothing? Because you want to? I smiled. Not because of anger, but because of self-respect. The next day, I texted my mom. A tiny house with 2 bedrooms is available for rent on Maple Street. $1,100 a month. The landlord is waiting for your call. The rent for the first month is paid. That's all you get from me. I didn't wait for an answer. I blocked her number immediately away. Ryan told me 2 weeks later that they had taken the house. It was modest and simple, but it was clean and in a safe area. Not the luxury they were used to, not even close to what Marissa and I had today, but better than what they deserved. I never went to see them, never phoned or got in touch in any way. For decades, they had chosen money and status over me. Because I valued other things, they made me feel worthless. Now they had no money or status, but I had both, plus something they never had, real happiness. I saw my dad sitting on a bench near the edge of the park last week when I dropped Jake off for baseball practice. He looked ancient and weak. He saw me as well. We looked at each other across the parking lot. For a second, I thought he might come over and eventually say sorry, which I had desired so badly at one point. He didn't say anything. He just stared and then glanced down at his hands. I walked Jake to the field, hugged him, and told him I loved him and was proud of him no matter what. I was close enough to the bench to hear my father speak as I walked back to my pickup. He didn't. He just continued looking at his hands. The same hands that had typed that message, pushed me away, and thought that money was the only thing that made a guy worth something. I wasn't mad anymore. I didn't feel like I had won or been proven right. I just felt liberated. They were still stuck in their pride and materialism jail. I was still the same guy who worked with his hands, who showed up when others needed him, and who respected family. But now I know that family isn't only about blood. I think about how easy it would have been for my parents to have a relationship with their grandkids and be a part of our lives when I see them around town. My mom is checking coupons at the grocery store, and my dad is sitting alone at the public library. All it would have needed was a simple "I'm sorry" and some basic kindness. But they couldn't do that. They still can't accept they were wrong, even though they are broke and ashamed. When Dad sees me coming, he still crosses the street. Mom still watches my kids from a distance at the playground and never comes close. And that's the payback I never knew I wanted. Their anguish, their begging, and their lack of relevance. They put money ahead of their son and prestige ahead of their family. They don't have either now. And I have it all. The best way to get back at them isn't to make them pay. It's making them watch you do well without.